right? So in the last class, we had learned about the length of the DNA, and we had talked about the base pair and nucleotides and how we can use that depending on the organism we are going to use, or we are going to talk depending on whether they are going to have single stranded structure or double stranded structure. And typically when we're going to have a double stranded structure, we have to talk about presence of or counting the number of base pairs. Now we had talked about the X-ray diffraction technology and how the two scientists, that is Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin, basically gave the way for the discovery of DNA, or the structure of this structure of DNA that was given by Watson and Crick. And then we also had talked about Chargaff, Erwin Chargaff, and his law on how a particular for a double stranded DNA, what is going to happen. So he had said that for a particular DNA, double stranded DNA, ratio of the adenine and thymine and guanine and cytosine are going to be constant, and the total is going to be equal to 1. A equal to T and G equals to C. We all know again why is that important. We have learned that the adenine always base pairs with T, right? Adenine base pairs with double bond T, cytosine triple bonds with G. So this is what actually gave rise, basically the X-ray diffraction data and the Chargaff law allowed the two scientists Watson and Crick to give the DNA double helix structure. And we had seen yesterday about the diameter of the DNA, that is going to be 2 nanometers, the pitch of the DNA, right? The number of base pairs per a single turn, that is going to be 10. And for each base pair, the distance is going to be 0.34 nanometers. And there is going to be a 36-degree rotation when we go from one place to the next. So I don't know, I hope you can see this. So it's a very simple model of the DNA. As you can see here, there is going to be rotation. What we are talking about rotation, we said double helix. Once again, we said double helix, helical structure. Helical means twisted structure. As you can see from here, it is going and it is going up like a twisted ladder. And when we talk about the distance between base pair, right? So we are talking about between two, right? For example, here we are going to have one base pair, and here we are going to have another base pair. So what is the distance between these two? That is going to be called the base pair rise. That is going to be 0.34 nanometers. Now it is very important when we are talking about counting or making finding out the length of a DNA molecule in an organism. And we have talked about the salient features of a double helical structure of DNA, where we had talked about the anti-parallel polarity. We had talked about the 5' and 3' end, and also we had talked about the hydrogen bonding between them and how they're going to actually face inside, how the base actually face inside, and the sugar phosphate bone backbone is going to be formed. So I'm going to go forward and go to the first question. So here the question is, in an experiment, the DNA is treated with a compound which tend to place itself amongst the stack of nitrogen base pairs, and as a result of which the distance between two consecutive base pairs increases from 0.34 nanometers to 0.44 nanometers, right? So in simple, what they're asking is calculate the length of the DNA of which has 2 into 10 power 9 base pair in the presence of saturating amount of this compound. So again, back to the question here. So I'll just open the question once again for me. 1 second. So here the question is, we are going to have a experiment where we're going to place a molecule in the DNA, and in the DNA what we're going to have is, when we are placing the compound, the distance. Suppose I'm having a base pair here, for example, A T, and here I'm going to have C G. So I know the distance between these two is going to be how much? 0.34 nanometers. Yes, 0.34 nanometers. Now what we are saying is, instead of this regular 0.3 nanometers, because of this additional chemical compound in this experiment, the distance now is actually increasing to 0.44 nanometers. Okay, so there is an increase in the distance between the base pairs from 0.34 nanometers to 0.44 nanometers. Now the question is, if the DNA is having, right, a total of 2 into 10 power 9 base pair, what is the dist or length of the DNA? They're asking the length of the DNA when we are going to have enough amount. Saturating amount means what? We have enough amount of this particular, this chemical. So we are treating with a chemical, right? So when we are going to have sufficient amount of this chemical, what will be the length of the DNA if the number of base pair is going to be 2 into 10 power 9? Can anybody try to answer this? How can we solve it?
So we have to multiply to 0.44.
We have to multiply 2 into 10 to the 9 into 0.44 nanometer.
Exactly. So to find out the length of this particular DNA, we already know the base pair. Base pairs are going to be actually giving us the amount of the nitrogen bases, and if we just multiply that with the distance between the bases, we are going to, or base pairs, we are going to get the result. So here we have to simply multiply this, that is into 2 into 10 power 9 into 0.44 nanometers, right? So this is going to give us a result in nanometers, right? But typically when we talk about expressing the length of the DNA, we use the meter actually, so here what we have to do, again, this is basically the base pair rise, and to this again we are going to write 10 power 9 as 9. So that basically will give rise, when we multiply that with 10 power minus 9, we're going to get the result in meters again. So now I'm going to share with you another question. I'm sorry. Are you all clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So another
sir.
question, a very simple one. Another question which is going to be simple, not very difficult. Here, calculate the length of the DNA of a bacteriophage lambda that is going to have 48,502 base pairs. You have to express the result in meters. Anybody can do this? Again, it's a very simple one.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can you tell me what will be the result
Sir,
here? Yes.
so 48,502 into 0.34.
0.34. Okay, as you said.
Sir,
Nanometer.
then 0.34 into 10 to the power minus 9, sir.
Yeah. So
Again.
here we have to, what we have to do is, we have to take the number of nucleotides, right? That is going to be 48,502, and we have to multiply that with the length or distance between the base pair, that is going to be 0.34, and we know that it is actually in case of nanometers, and they're asking the answer to be in meters. So what you have to do is you have to multiply this with 10 power minus 9. So whatever answer you get, that is going to be expressed in meters. And when we solve it, what we'll do is we'll be getting 16.49 into 10 power minus 9 meters. So that is the minus 6, not 9, minus 6 meter. So that will be the answer for this question. Simple. Try to find out what they're asking and whether they're asking in meter or they're not specifying anything. If they're asking in meter, multiply the entire thing with 0.34 into 10 power minus 9. That is going to give you the result. Okay. So let us go to the next question. Again, let me share the screen. Okay. Now, I'll just give you a brief recap of the Chargaff rule. Now, we all know that Chargaff rule talks about the ratio between the nitrogen bases. And here I'm going to tell you about 3 different points. The first one is going to be the amount of adenine is always equal to the amount of thymine, and the amount of guanine is always equal to the amount of cytosine. So if we are going to, okay, let me write down here. So in simple term, A, the concentration of adenine is going to be equal to the concentration of thymine, and the concentration of cytosine is going to be equal to concentration of guanine. That is your point number 1 that we have to understand. Now the second point is adenine is joined to thymine with 2 hydrogen bond, and guanine is joined with cytosine with 3 hydrogen bond. Again, this is something that we have been learning. And last point is very important. The ratio of adenine and guanine to that of the thymine and cytosine is always going to be equal to 1. That is, in other words, what we can say is A plus G, that is your concentration of A and concentration of G, to that of the concentration of cytosine and that of the guanine, the ratio is always going to be 1. Now, this particular equation is going to be very important when we are going to talk about this. Is very important when we talk about solving a particular question that is based on Chargaff rule. So coming to the first question in here, if a double-stranded DNA is going to have, if a double-stranded is going, the DNA is having 20% of cytosine, calculate the percent of adenine in the DNA. Try to find it. Right? What they're giving in the question, they're saying that we are going to have in a DNA, right? What they're going to have 20% cytosine. And what are they asking? They're asking the percentage of adenine. So how much is the adenine in this particular DNA? Okay, so can anybody give me a clue on how can we solve this? Question is 20% cytosine given. Here you have the equation, right? And 3 points I had said you. Now, can we find out the adenine?
30%.
30%? Can you tell me how? Who said
Yes,
that?
sir.
Pooja Rani Panda?
I'm Pooja, sir.
Yes, Pooja. Tell me, how can we solve it?
Yes, sir. So here cytosine is equal to thymine, sir. So 20
Cytosine
and
is equal
20,
to?
total percent.
Cytosine is equal to? You said thymine.
Sorry. So yes, sir.
See, no. Okay.
Is A. So sorry, sir. Cytosine is equal to guanine, sir.
Cytosine is equals to
Yes, sir.
guanine,
Sorry,
right?
sir.
So if I'm going to have
Guanine.
20%
So it is
cytosine, yes.
20,
So we all know,
20% guanine.
yes. So if C is equal to 20%, and as we know, the G is also going to be 20%, right? So C plus G, that is going to be how much?
20%.
40%,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So a very simple formula that you have to understand is
40%.
A plus, here you have to understand is, let's say A plus T equals to 100, because we're counting out of 100%. So 100 minus C plus G, right? So here we do not know anything about A plus T. So let us keep it as it is. A plus T equals to 100 minus C is how much? 20. G is how much? 20. So that is 40. So that will give us a value of 60, right? So your total value for adenine and thymine is going to be 60%. Now, again, we know that A value or adenine, amount of adenine is going to be equal to the amount of thymine. So A equals to T. So in here, if A plus T is equal to 60%, then as asked in the question, what we have to do is you have to find out the value of adenine simply by dividing this by 2. So T, or there is, sorry, they're asking A. So adenine here is going to be 30%. That is going to be exactly half of that of the thymine, right? All are clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Let's move to the next question. Very simple things, but again, nicely they'll ask you for 2-3 marks, so you can easily solve. So here, question. While analyzing the DNA of an organism, a total number of 5,386 nucleotides were found, out of which the proportion of different bases were bases were adenine 29%, guanine 17%, cytosine 32%, and thymine 17%. Now, applying the rule, okay, let me write down that in the meantime first. Right. So as per this question, what we have, A is equal to 29%, G is equal to 17%, C equals to 32%, and T is equal to 17%. Now, very simple question. Considering Chargaff rule or Chargaff law that you have learned, this particular DNA that we are talking about, is it a circular double stranded DNA? Is it a single stranded DNA? Is it a linear double stranded DNA? Or we cannot come to any conclusion of this based on this particular findings. You have given the proportion of bases, and we have to come to a conclusion whether the DNA is double stranded, single stranded, linear double stranded, or we can find out nothing out of this. Are you clear with the question? Right.
Sir.
So can anybody try to answer this now? It's a very simple, little bit tricky, but very simple thing. I think the fourth one was we cannot find out any conclusion. Okay, Manikanda is saying we cannot find any conclusion. Fine. Any other idea? Any other idea? Any other idea?
No idea, sir.
No idea at all. Fine. So we have to keep one thing in mind. Chargaff law state the ratio, right? So here the ratio of A plus G, are we satisfying that? A plus G by C plus T equals to 1. Are we satisfying this? Or
No,
in simple,
sir, one
let
is
us not go.
46, another one is 49.
Yes, let us not go even to this one. A double bond with T, C triple bond with G. So accordingly, A and T should be equally present. C and G should be equally present. Now, if you can see here, A here is 29%. So ideally, the T should be 29%. That is not the case. Similarly, the G is 17. So C should be 17%. So again, that is not the case here. So here, this one cannot be a double stranded DNA. Why? Because the Chargaff law is going to be satisfying the DS DNA. Right? So only if you're going to have a DS DNA, the Chargaff law or Chargaff rule is going to be implemented. If it is not a double stranded DNA, then it will not satisfy the Chargaff rule. So in that case, very simple, this particular nucleotides will be part of a single stranded DNA. So in a single stranded DNA, there is no limitation on what is the ratio of this bases or the base pairs. There is no connection with this because it is all single stranded. We don't have base pairing. We just have nitrogen bases. And if we do not have base pairing, why to worry about the ratio and the same percentage of the nitrogen bases? So as the question was asking whether the DNA from where we are talking about, from where we have taken this value, is a single stranded DNA, double stranded circular DNA, double stranded linear DNA, or we can find out nothing. We can come to the conclusion that as it is not satisfying the Chargaff rule, that is for double stranded DNA, whether it's linear or circular, does not matter. So the solution is, the answer is going to be single stranded DNA. Am I clear, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
Sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
fine. Let's move on now to today's concept, right? We have around 20 minutes. So we'll try to cover today a very important aspect, that is the packaging of the DNA. So to start with, let us talk about a very important concept that we started the class with. And that was the, very interesting, it stopped working. Okay. That is the central dogma. right? So what we have been talking about is the fact that the DNA has been given a particular property, or basically a particular shape, or the structure has been identified, and people are trying to understand how the information that is stored in the coded form, the DNA, is actually getting passed on. And during this time, again, the same scientist, Francis Crick, introduced, or he gave the central dogma of molecular biology, or simply referred to the central dogma, that we all know is nothing but DNA give rise to RNA. There are different forms of the RNA. For example, the messenger RNA or mRNA. I'll just tell you that later on. We'll talk about mRNA or messenger RNA. We'll talk about rRNA or ribosomal RNA, and we are going to have a tRNA or transfer RNA. So we have different types of RNA, and these three are very important when we talk about the central dogma processes, that is your process of DNA replication, and you have the process of transcription and translation. So DNA gives rise to RNA, RNA gives rise to protein, and again it is going to be repetition, but quickly. So DNA is going to maintain itself, right? Whenever it has to duplicate, whenever it has to have additional copies of it, or it needs to repair in case of a damage, it is going to make copies of itself, and that is by, very good, replication. So by DNA replication process, we are getting copies of DNA. Similarly, when we talk about DNA to RNA, it is going to be transcription, right? And the RNA give rise to the protein by the process of translation.
Translation.
Very good. So as I said, we're going to talk about this at a later point of time, but you have to keep in mind that the moment, or right after Francis Crick and Watson and Crick gave the DNA structure, that the scientist Francis Crick gave the central dogma to actually express, or to make people understand how the information might be getting passed on from one genetic material to the next, and finally to the proteins, because people are getting to know how these things are related. So going back to the fact that your DNA, right? How many base pairs do we have in our body? Anybody can tell me how many base pairs do you have in our body?
3.3 into 10 to the power 9.
3.3
base pair in humans, total number of base pair in humans. That is, you are saying 3.3 into 10 power, how much?
9.
10 to the power 9 in haploid
10
condition.
to the power. And 10 to the power.
So 10 to the power 9
In what condition?
haploid cell, sir.
In a haploid
Sir,
condition,
haploid, sir.
right? Haploid condition. Very good. So when we talk about a typical condition, that is a diploid condition, because we know that except the germ cells, none of the cells are in haploid, they are all in diploid. So in a regular cell, that is going to be diploid, right? In a diploid cell, that is nothing but your somatic cell. The base pair, if you have to find out, it is going to be 6.6 into 10 power 9 base pairs. Agree? 6.6 into 10
Yes,
power
sir.
9 base pair.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
can you tell me the length of the DNA that we will get it here? So, based on this information, what will be the length of DNA?
0.34 into 10 to the power 9 into 6.6 into 10 to the
Okay,
power 9.
so in other words, 6.6 into 10 power 9 into 10 power minus 9 meters. Agree?
Meter.
Agree? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So if I solve this, which you can, you will get around 2.2 meters, approximately 2.2 meters of the entire DNA that we have in our body. Now, a typical nucleus is much smaller than this, right? We are going to have 2.2 meters of DNA. Remember, this is present per cell. We are not talking about the entire, body. We are talking about they are present per cell, and we know 2.2 meters is actually huge, and we also know that the cell is actually invisible. to a naked eye, and we need to see that under microscope. They're very tiny, and we have to understand that inside the cell we have the nucleus, and a typical nucleus has a dimension of around 10 to the power, right? So nucleus has a dimension of around 10 power minus 6 meter. Clear? So a very obvious question is, how is this long, right, 2.2 meters of the DNA is packed inside a much smaller nucleus? And to answer that, we have to understand the mechanism of packaging of the DNA inside the nucleus, both in case of prokaryotes and in case of eukaryotes. So to start with, did you understand this? How did we get this 2.2 meters?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have only 10 minutes. So what I'll do is quickly I'll tell you what is going to happen in case of prokaryotes, and then we'll go into the eukaryotes later on. That is for tomorrow. We'll go into the eukaryotes. So okay, the first thing that you have to understand here is the DNA is packaged inside in the form of, we all know, chromosome. Right? What we have inside the cell is actually chromosome inside the nucleus. Inside nucleus. And here the chromosome is made up of, can you tell me what is the composition of chromosome based on your earlier classes?
Chromatids.
No, chromatid is slightly different. Anybody else?
The nitrogenous base, pentose sugar.
Sir, protein, histone protein.
Protein DNA.
Protein DNA. Okay, fine, good. So what we're going to have is, we are going to have the DNA, of course, and along with that we are going to have the, sorry,
Histone protein, sir.
Histone.
I will not go to that histone protein, because there are two categories of protein. One is called histone and one is called NHC, or non-histone chromosomal protein. There are both of these kinds. So let us say that it is just made up of DNA and protein. So each of the chromosome is made up of DNA and protein. Now this DNA and protein, why they are associated? We'll understand that DNA is going to be negatively charged, right? So DNA overall charge is how much? Negative. Now can you tell me why there is a negative charge on the DNA? Anybody?
Because of phosphate group.
Because of the phosphate group. Just a minute. Okay, who's the last? Debashi Panigrahi. I'm just taking a screenshot for the attendance purpose later. So just be there. Okay, I'm back. So DNA is negatively charged because of the presence of phosphate, right? The phosphate group, if you remember that we're talking about H3, phosphoric acid, H3PO4. Now the phosphate group here is going to give the DNA a overall negative charge. Now we'll talk about later, the proteins are here, they are positively charged. Why? We'll talk about that again in a minute when we talk about the eukaryotes. But overall, what is going to happen is the DNA gets associated with certain positively charged protein, and they're going to form the supercoiled structure, where we talk about both prokaryotes or eukaryotes. In both the cases, they're going to attach to each other, the DNA being negatively charged and the protein being positively charged. Now, in case of prokaryotes, again, I'll tell you this tomorrow. In case of prokaryotes, what happens is the DNA is not present inside, the chromosome is not present inside a nucleus. So inside nucleus, that is in case of eukaryon or eukaryotes. Now, in case of prokaryotes, there is no nucleus, and instead there is something called nucleoid. Okay, so nucleoid you see in case of prokaryotes. Keep this in mind. So here also in nucleoid, you're going to have the DNA getting associated with certain non-histone chromosomal protein. Remember this one, non-histone chromosomal protein. And that basically is going to allow the nucleoid to form. It's a region where you're going to have the DNA, sorry, where, yes, the DNA of the chromosome present in case of, a special region in case of prokaryotes. And there is no nucleus in this particular case. But inside the prokaryotes, we are inside the eukaryotes, we are going to have the nucleus, and that nucleus is going to pack this large amount of 2.2 meters of DNA with the help of two types of protein, histone and non-histone chromosomal protein, along with supercoiling. Now, what is this? We're going to learn this in the next class. Thank you all for today's class. That's all for today. If you have any other any questions, anything that I have based on what I have taught today, you can ask. Any doubts you have?
No, sir.
You are able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you all then. Let's close the session for now. I'm going to end it here. I'll just be active in WhatsApp for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and we'll close the session. I think we are coming towards the end, right? So 5:34. I don't know. Here the time is almost over anyway. So based on this, I will be giving some questions later. I'll just share these questions on the WhatsApp group later on. And I hope you have been writing the notes. And for these notes, you can visit my blog. The notes are already there. I will try to send a link today. You can write the notes. You can write these notes. Choice is yours. And I will, the 4 questions that I shared, the same 4 questions I will put in the WhatsApp group today. So that is going to be a practice question. Along with that, I'll put maybe additionally 1 or 2 questions that you have to solve for tonight, or by tomorrow you can solve it. It will not take more than 10 to 15 minutes. Will that be okay? You can solve these 5 questions, 5 or 6 questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you feeling difficulty in this chapter, or is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine.
No difficult.
Yes, sir.
As I said before,
Little difficult.
little difficult, no problem. It will not be that difficult once the entire concepts come together. It will be. But I guess for many it might be easier than the previous chapter, right? That is your genetics chapter. Maybe easier. Okay. Fine then. I'm going to close the session now, and I'll put the question in the WhatsApp. I'll share the attendance link in the WhatsApp. So you have to just 1 second. Send it to you people, right? Just it'll be open for a minute or 2, and right at 5:45, I'm going to close this. So in that time only you appear there, or you fill up the form. I've sent it in the group. Okay. Please fill up the forms later. Thank you all. Let's close the session for today.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you have benefited. Let's meet in the next class.